we ask the police to simply contain and control problems that we ourselves have been unwilling to invest and solve. That's not fair to the communities, it's not fair to the police.
When the first African-American president took the oath of office, there was a belief that race relations in the U.S. were about to undergo a change of radical proportions in no time. They were right, unfortunately. A new poll from CBS News and the New York Times has dropped some unwelcome reality on the issue, with 61% of Americans, including a majority of white and black Americans, terming the current state of race relations as the worst in more than 20 years. What happened in Baltimore has only helped to drive home the debate and leave every person of every race wondering if we can turn this around in time or if we're doomed to a deep slide that may take even more generations to overcome. Our guest is now an anti-drug crusader who owns up to his past as a former drug dealer and seeks to right this American ship. Co-founder and president of the Do Right Foundation and author of the book Lessons of Redemption. Welcome Kevin Shird to the Hardline. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
My pleasure, Kevin. You grew up in Baltimore. You've seen this city undergo these changes. In writing the book, also in looking at these numbers right now, who's to blame? We have to hold somebody responsible, Kevin. People say very seriously, it's all about the Democrats who failed it in 40 years. People then want to blame the president. But what about the people on the ground? Whom do we give the blame to? Who owns up to this?
Well, I think the local government has to take some responsibility, but we're not talking about the current administration. This issue has been brewing in this part of Baltimore for about 25 years. You've got people that have been in poverty and have birthed children who are now in poverty, that are now having children themselves who will be in poverty. So this is a 30-year trend that's been going on for years. And you're talking about several mayor administrations back. We're talking about the late 80s. And so, the local government has to definitely take some responsibility for
Okay, Kevin, let's hit the local government then if we can. But what about the people, knowing full well that they have been beaten down for decades now? But what about the people and the citizens of Baltimore and other places around the country rising up, doing something peacefully, going to the ballot box, making changes that will turn this thing around? Don't they deserve at least some of the blame?
Absolutely, no question about it. And again, so the police brutality has been going on in this area for a long, long time. And I remember me being in the streets myself several years ago when I was involved in drugs and being assaulted by police and seeing people assaulted by the police. You knew that if you ran from the cops and you got caught, you were getting beat. You knew that. That's a common thing in that area of Baltimore, right? So, yeah, the people have to take a lot of responsibility. This is why we've really understood now why voting is so important, because we've continued to put the same people in office that haven't done much to make a difference for the community.
And Kevin, we've been telling people about this voting now for decades, Kevin. We've been telling them over and over and over again, what is it going to take to get into the heads of people to actually get out there and make the difference? It doesn't seem to be getting through.
It hasn't gotten through for a long, long time, but I was just in the neighborhood a couple of weeks ago, actually a few days ago, and the NAACP was on the ground registering people to vote. It's one thing to register to vote, but then during the weeks and times of voting, the voter turnout in Baltimore has been horrible. And so it's one thing to be a registered voter, but it's another thing to come out on the day of voting to vote.
Then how do we drive them in, Kevin? How do you drive them into the ballot box of every race and of every creed to make the difference here?
You know what? I don't have an answer to that. It's a historic thing. And I think part of it is that people have been comfortable with the fact that this is a Democratic-dominated city and a Democratic-dominated state, and it's been that way for decades. So people don't feel like their vote counts. But in cases like this, when on the ground, local issues with areas of the city decimated by poverty, your vote definitely counts, but I don't have the answer to that.
Then let me ask you this in about the minute or so that I have left. I want to lean on the book, Lessons of Redemption, as well, and ask you then, the race relation issue in this country, what needs to be done? Your opinion, you've lived through all this. What's the key here to unlocking this and stopping what looks to be a desperate slide down to the bottom and even making it worse every single day? How do we stop this?
Continue to have this painful conversation. We've had it since Obama took office, and it's painful. And what has happened is that we've actually taken the Band-Aid off the wound, and now the healing begins. But it's going to be painful. The healing is going to be painful. So that's what you see now. You see the true feelings and emotions of America coming to bear. So before this, it was like we were covering up with a Band-Aid, but now it's more serious now. And
Is that just it, Kevin? About 20 seconds I have left here, that you and others, we need to look America in the face and say, man up, woman up, if you will. Face the pain, understand it, and start to talk about it every day instead of hiding from it.
Continue to talk about it. It's going to be painful. It's painful right now, and people are hurting, but we have to continue the dialogue. I don't think it's gotten worse. I just think the conversation has gotten more intense.
All right. It's a conversation, and an intense conversation, that needs to be held constantly. Reminder once again, the book is Lessons of Redemption. Somebody who actually grew up in Baltimore, understands the situation, and is trying to help turn what happened in Baltimore and in the nation around as well. Kevin Shird, thanks so much for joining us. I'll look forward to the next time we speak.
Thank you.
My pleasure. When we come back, it's called FLACA. And if you're a parent of a teen, you need to know about it. Next on The Hard Line.